Okay, hello everybody, again, it's me again. As promised, further updates. I'm going to tell you about Thomas. As I said before, that's not his real name. But I see it's Ascot today as well, and Kate and William are going to be in the leading carriage apparently, because the Queen's having a rest. I can't wait to see what Catherine wears. I love that, and I love that someone asked her, you know, it said to her, you're going to be a brilliant next Princess of Wales. So she will too, so she will. And also, if anyone works at the Daily Mail who watches these videos just by chance, or any of the newspapers, can't you guys do a bit of digging into certain Twitterati bullies? And I'm not going to name him, but there is a man I couldn't help but notice on Twitter who does reports and things like that. Can't you guys at the newspaper have a little dig into him and see where the money leads? Who's paying him? Because that would be a big headline. If you got a connection between him and you know who, oh boy, that'd be world headline. So come on, whatever happened to investigative journalism? I know with my story, no one ever made the effort to really look into it. They used to contact me all the time and go, oh, we'll let you tell your side of the story, Fiona, but they never did. They just regurgitated the same stuff. And the reason is because I don't think it's like that so much these days with TikTok and YouTube, and people can get their side of the story out. But in the olden days, it was very much controlling the population. Like a lot of the TV people and media people used to say to me, we can't pay you any money because we're seen as promoting crime and criminals. And I thought, you cheeky monkeys. Anyway, so any investigative journalists out there, can you not make some paper trail connection money? I mean, come on. We see all these scandals come out years later and everybody says, how could everybody not have known? I think this is a living scandal at the moment. And one of you could be like a proper Watergate. I know we've got gate this, gate that, gate the other, but you could blow this one out of the water. Right, Thomas. Well, just in brief, I was very quiet a child after like the kindergarten thing. I was like, shut up, stop gobbing off. So I thought, I'll just keep my head down and I'll do what I can, my best at school. So I did that, and I was actually very, very well behaved, very good child until I was about 13 or 14, and then it was just too much. It was because I was a good child, I think my parents took it for granted really a little bit and thought, I'll leave her to her own devices, and that was like the worst thing to do. I had a terrible boyfriend when I was about 15. Oh, he was a nightmare. And that did bring trouble for my mum and dad, and I felt very bad about all of that. And the bastard actually burgled our home in the end. And that's another long story. I'll tell you all about that, because we went on holiday and he did it while we were on holiday, and I had a dream that he'd done it. And I saw all the people involved in the dream, and I told my mum and dad, and they said nonsense, no such thing as dreams. And when we got home, we found out. Police were absolutely useless over that one. Anyway, so I felt I'd caused my mum and dad a lot of trouble. So I went back to being very, very suppressed. Not good, but suppressed, like just trying to be something that I wasn't to please them. And I was in a relationship for about 4 years with a very nice lad, good-looking lad, very sweet, nothing wrong with him at all, but he wasn't what I wanted at all. And I couldn't get out of the relationship because my mum and dad kept sort of emotionally blackmailing me and saying, well, if you split up with him, it's all going to start again, which oddly enough is exactly what happened. Who knew? Anyway, he was very upset every time I said to him, it's got to finish. He said he'd kill himself and stuff like that, and I felt bad. So I got involved with, this is going to sound terrible, I got involved with a married man, because I thought, if I have someone who's married, it's not a long-lasting situation. And I don't want to jump ship from one ship to another, or out of the frying pan and into the fire. So I thought this guy was the only person on my side at the time, and he was willing to listen and stuff. In fact, it's thanks to him I first came to Jib. He brought me to Jib. He was a lovely guy. He's dead now. Another one dead, unfortunately, cancer. Anyway, so I was the rights or wrongs of it. It's probably why I don't judge people, because I'm in no position, apart from Meghan Markle. Anyway, I'm not talking about her today. So my boyfriend at the time, he cottoned on there was someone else, and he kept, of course, saying, "Who is it? Who is it? Who is it?" So I made up a person that was the dead opposite of my married man. I said, well, firstly, he's young, which he wasn't. Secondly, he's from Birmingham. I don't know why I said that, but I did, because this married man was from Sussex. I said he was blonde, because this fella was dark. I said he was tall, and this fella was not short, but he was my height. So blonde, from Birmingham, tall, young. I said he was a sales rep. And the weirdest thing is, he said, what sort of car does he drive? And I said, oh, red Maestro. Right? I just made all that up off the top of my head, just to make the guy feel better. Anyway, the guy, he understood in the end, and I'm very glad to say that young man, well, he won't be a young man now, he'd be my age. He found a girl, found true love, and they started a family, and he's very, very happy, and he would never have been happy with me, never. Because he wanted to settle down and have children, and I was 21, 22, and that was the last thing I wanted to do. I wanted to get out there. Well, you probably realised I'm a bit of a handful anyway. I think someone said that in the comments, and you're quite right. So, anyway, then I broke it off with the married man once I'd got out of this relationship, and that was fine. I only went out with the married man for about 8 weeks, you know. It's probably the naughtiest thing I've done, in my opinion. I think that's very, very naughty and very, very bad thing to do. I'm very glad his wife never found out about it. Mind you, she was having quite a few. I'm not justifying anything, okay? Anyway, about 2 months later, I was working in this business centre in an office. This young man walked in, and he was tall, and he was blonde. I am not making this up. I mean, this is one of the weird things that's happened in my life. Super weird. Tall, blonde, Brummie, Birmingham accent. He was a sales rep. He'd come for a job with one of the tenants in my building, and he drove a red Maestro. How's that, eh? How's that for a weird coincidence? It's almost like by me making up all that shit and telling my ex-boyfriend that exact opposite description of the married man, I was almost writing my own book, which makes me feel there are people who've died, or there are people who've not now. I should take the Wi-Fi off this while I'm doing these. The WhatsApps that come thick and fast. It's almost like there's loads of dead people, and there's people, or there's some other universe, or there's something. Yeah, he had a red Maestro, and he was Thomas was the funniest person. He made me laugh more than anyone else I'd ever met, up until Graham. Graham makes me laugh a lot more. And Graham knew Thomas as well eventually. In fact, it was Graham who sort of said to Thomas in the end, I know you and Fiona have been best friends for 11 years and everything, and I love you, man. I really love you, Thomas, but you're going to have to go. I'm sorry. You're too much trouble. Anyway, so I met this young Thomas, and he came into work one day and he said, oh, you'll never guess what? My car was stolen. My red Maestro, it was stolen. And I said, oh, that's terrible. He said, oh, and I didn't have insurance because I couldn't afford the insurance as well as the finance. Anyway, that evening, the front page of the Evening Argus, it said that there'd been a police chase with a red Maestro, car thieves, and they'd chased it all over Brighton, and they couldn't catch them. So I thought, oh, that'd be Thomas's car. Poor Thomas, I'll phone the police. So I picked the phone up, and they answered. And something in my head said, put the phone down, Fiona, it's none of your business. It's nothing to do with you. Don't do this. So I put the phone down, and I thought, I'll tell him. It's got to be his car. He came in to the office later on, and I told him I'd phoned the police, and I'd thought better of it, and I'd put the phone down. Well, the guy went white as a sheet, and that's when it came out. He said, well, it wasn't my car. It was me that had the police chase all over Brighton. Well, I know a lot of law-abiding citizens. Well, I would now. would now. I'd say, look, you've got to sort yourself out. But I was 22. I just thought it was the most exciting thing I'd ever heard in my life. A car thief, a real live car thief. So, yeah, and Thomas was lovely, very charming, very gentle, not an ounce of violence in him, always dressed smartly, always in a business suit, and we had a lot in common because he was skint as well, and I was skint, but neither of us were the sort to let anybody see that. And I lost my job in the business centre because it was the recession, the early 90s recession. They were awful people, actually. And I did a very stupid thing. One of them, there'd been years of this nonsense going on, office politics, bullying in the workplace. And I was 22, and I'd only just come out of this sort of 4-year relationship with this guy who was very nice but a bit dull and very sort of goody two shoes. So I was in that, I was like a little mouse in a shell, and I didn't want to kick off. And I'd said to my mum and dad a few times, I don't like working at that place. I was there for 2 years, and I said I get bullied, and all they could, my mum used to say, oh, let it wash all over you. And my dad used to say, oh, it's all part of the rich tapestry of life, Fiona. In other words, don't bother us with your problems, Fiona, just carry on being nice and goody because you're not stressing us out. They didn't really care, but in the end there was always fights over the car park, private car park, and who parked where. And someone had parked in someone else's space, and as it turned out, it was one of my superiors who'd parked in their space, and someone had left a rude note on a cardboard on her car, and she came marching in, my superior at work, and she threw this cardboard note at me like a frisbee, and it hit me right there. And she said, tell fucking this company director I'll park where I fucking well like. Those were her exact words, and she marched out. And that was it. I left. I walked out. I just thought, I can't take another second of it. I've had 2 years of this bitch. There was her and another bitch and this horrible old dude, and I'm certain he's dead because he was about 183 when I was working there. And I didn't know anything about recessions. And apparently the early 90s recession had kicked in. There was a thing called Black Wednesday, and I'd heard it on the news. I didn't know what it was. Something to do with the ECB, the European Central Bank, and interest rates went up to, at one point, I think they went up to 17%. They put them back down to 15 and then 12. Well, I was, that was the beginning of the knackers for Brighton, all of us in Brighton and the South East. They talk about north-south divide. Well, that was a very levelling experience, and I didn't realise when I walked out that job, there'd be very little chance of finding another job. So there I was, out of work, and Thomas had moved in with me, and so we were right up Shit Creek without a paddle, and through his shenanigans, Sussex police came round, and it went on and on and on. Hello, you had a good day with the dolphins?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you brought a bottle of brandy and it's vinegar.
Yeah.
Vinegar is amazing. If ever you're bitten by mosquitoes, Graham puts it in an atomizer, and kids complain. They were all complaining last night, oh, it smells like fish and chips. But it's brilliant. Mosquitoes hate it, and it's cheap. So that was Thomas. Thomas was a lovely, funny, kind, caring guy, but Graham used to call him Mr. Bot, because he'd bring us all on top, bang on top. That was my Thomas, and he's the one I actually, at one point, I went to the police and, more than once, I went to the police and confessed to crimes I hadn't committed, that he'd committed, because we knew for sure for him it would be jail, but for me, because I didn't have a criminal record. And luckily, God bless those police officers, they talked me out of it. They said, look, we'll give you a chance to take the statement back because we know you're covering for him. Thomas was more like my little brother in the end. I felt I had to look after him, and it really took Graham in the end to say, Thomas, you're a grown man and you're messing her life up and you've got to go. And when I found out it was him who'd thrown me into Skerritt, of course, I said, don't ring again. I wish him well, whatever he's up to right now. I try and look him up on the internet. It doesn't look like he's doing any better with his life these days, but that's the way it is. So I'm going to go and have a look and see what Catherine's hat and dress is, and Camilla, actually. Camilla's growing on me a lot. I quite like some of her outfits and her clothes, so I'll leave you with that thought, and there's so many stories. I can't think where to begin. Oh, and a lot of you have said I must write a book. Well, I did. I wrote a book while I was on the run, which was a big mistake because the story hadn't ended. So I deleted that, and then I wrote another book in 2005, and I've still got it. But it's the thing with a book is you've got to find a publisher, and it's a lot of hard work. Even for someone like Lady Colin Campbell, you ask her, publishing, getting a book done, it's a big deal. And I actually prefer just being with you guys here on YouTube, because we're like a little club. We're a book club, aren't we? Or we're a swap your nightmare stories club. So tell me all your nightmares, as you know, below in the comments, and I'll see you later.